welcome to my gardening vlog. This week it's all about roots. As I harvest my first early potatoes, I'm also planting my main crop potatoes. I also get my main crop onions in the ground, and then I harvest some rhubarb for a delicious dessert. It's a roots day on the moon phase calendar, and I am planting my main crop potatoes. I've chosen blight resistant varieties this year because we have had quite a lot of problems with blight. Well, I mean, everybody's had problems with blight over the last few years. And with the spring that we've had, all the rain and heat and everything and humidity, it doesn't bode well, does it? So the two varieties that I've chosen are the Sapo. Sapo is a particular make of potato that has been bred for blight resistance. So when you get different varieties, there's always Sapo in front of it. So I have Sapo Mira, M-I-R-A, which is a really kind of good all-rounder potato. You can use it for salad potatoes. It's a very good... That's Mr. N here. He's making the holes for me. You can use it as a baker, as roasting potatoes, mashed potatoes. It's a really great one. And this one here, so I've done the Miras, they're all in. This one here is Sapo Una. And this potato can be used as a new potato if you want as well. I don't quite understand new potato. Isn't it all potatoes that you grow new potatoes? But I think that new potatoes are the little small diddy ones. So I'm just going to show you what these ones look like. These tubers are a little bit more dried out than the Sapo Miras, but this is what I'm talking about here. So you've already got these chits coming. And did you know that potatoes have got a belly button? So on the bottom end, you can see on this potato, there's a tiny little scab just there. And that scab is the belly button. So that's where it was attached by the umbilical to the parent plant, which will be this one now. So as you all know, if you watch me, you know that I'm a no digger. And with no digging, planting potatoes is really simple. All you do is you make the holes for the potatoes. So it is the 6th of May.
Hooray!
And we are, my cameraman's back. And I am harvesting our first new potatoes, which I put into my little pots. Remember, if you watch me, you see that I put them in my little pots first to start them off on the 9th of February. So I want this trug here because I want to keep the soil. I'm going to use some of this soil in the raised beds in the garden because this is actually going to be used for the third time. Ooh. Okay, let's get the trug. Wow, that's good. There's the first one. Bit small.
For a new potato, it's perfect.
You reckon?
Yeah.
So this variety is called Swift. This is the variety that I do really like to do for first earlies. Rocket is also really good as well. The only trouble... Oh, that's a better size. We're having a barbecue tonight. So we're having new potatoes from the garden or from the pots, and we're going to have salad with our own radishes. What a fantastic time of year it is. And it's sunny. Well, that's a little diddy one. Another little diddy one. All good. Yeah, Rocket. Swift is also very good. Taste-wise, they're okay. They're not the best tasting potato, but if you want a really fast potato to get going, then you do these. These take about 75, 80 days. I've left them a little bit longer. That was the actual potato. Yeah, I've left them a little bit longer because Mr. N's been away. But look at that. Never ceases to amaze, does it? We'll continue and then I'll show you a picture afterwards. We use a bulb planter to make the holes. So we just make the holes for the potatoes, space them out as much as you want. We've used 30 centimetres spacing. I mean, if you want bigger tubers, then you might want to go 2 foot. What's 2 foot, Mr. N, in centimetres? 60 centimetres. 60 centimetres. Oh, okay. And then it's about 12 centimetres deep, 10 to 12 centimetres deep. And I've made a hole, and all I then do is I put a little bit of blood, fish and bone in. Now, blood, fish and bone is an organic fertilizer. It's an all-purpose fertilizer. You can use it for nearly everything. So when I top dress my beds with compost, I always add a little bit of blood, fish and bone. And potatoes are very, very hungry plants. So you can go out and you can buy yourself a proper potato fertilizer if you want to, but blood, fish and bone works really well. You put a little bit in the bottom of the hole, put the potato on top, then you cover it with the soil, and then you can also top dress the bed with some blood, fish and bone as well. And that's all you really need to do for the whole season of potatoes. You can have a whole protocol of fertilizing if you want to. It's completely up to you, but that's all I really bother doing. And that's as easy as it is when you plant potatoes out. So the other potatoes that I've got going at the moment are my first early potatoes, and they're in pots. And we have actually harvested our first early potatoes, and you will see, because I will be putting that video on after this video, and you can just see what we got from that. When you do them in pots, of course, your yield is not going to be massive, but you will get a decent yield of first early potatoes, and you get them really early as well, and that's definitely worth it. You could, if you wanted to, grow potatoes in containers all year round. If you haven't got land or you haven't got areas in your garden that you want to use for potatoes, then you can definitely grow them in containers all year round. Try and choose a big container. So preferably about 50 litres is really good. A main crop works pretty well in containers, but you're actually better off getting second early potatoes. I know it's crazy, isn't it? This second early and this main crop and all that kind of business. But you can actually get second early potatoes, and they work really well in containers, and you will get bigger tubers as well for second earlies. So totally up to you. Again, it's up to you as to what you want your variety to taste like, because they all taste differently as well. So I would just experiment with a few. If you're going to do a 50-litre container, I would put 2 tubers in, and at this time of year you can put them direct into the container, because it's the compost will be nice and warm. They get going very quickly. And remember that potatoes have a lifespan. So a first early potato is bred to have a lifespan of about 75 to 80 days. And that's it. They don't grow anymore. So work out, when you put them in, write yourself a little tag that says what date you put them in, and then work out when they're going to be ready. Second earlies, usually up to about 110, 120 days, and then main crop are bred to be about 120 to about 150 days. So these now will be ready. I'm wanting them to be ready by September, mid-September, and then they are going to come out, and then I then start putting in my other winter crops that I need over the winter. So that's your potatoes done. The other thing I want to talk to you about is determinate and indeterminate. So these potatoes are what they call indeterminate potatoes. That means they work a little bit like tomatoes do. That means that they grow in layers. So that's why I like to put them in the ground, because you're going to get layers of potatoes. The determinate potatoes, which are usually your first early potatoes, only grow in one layer, and that's why they're really good to put in pots, because you don't need to use much compost. All you do is you bury them deep, and then you just need to just put a little bit more compost. As you see, the compost will start forming little mounds, and that means that something's going on underground, and that's your tubers forming. And if you want to, you can just put a little bit more compost on top. These ones here, as they start growing, the haulms start growing. I do nothing with it really, but then when I start to see the soil starting to mound again, I know that the tubers are starting to grow in layers. All I do is I come along with some compost that we've made, our own compost. You can also use mushroom compost, which is a really good, anything that you can find, and you just put it over the top. What you don't want is, you don't want the actual tuber of the potato to be coming out of the ground, the sun hitting it, and then it go green, because that you don't eat. No good, no good at all. And that's it really. That's your potatoes all done. And I'm going to continue doing them. It's a great day here today on the allotment, and these are going to get away very, very well. Great time to plant them. They need sunshine. July, August is when they're going to get the most sunshine. Fingers crossed for a good harvest. See you later. So another job that I've got for Roots Day is to transplant out my main crop, onions. So I've got two varieties here at the moment. The first variety that I've put in the ground here is Red Baron. Now I sowed these on the 30th of January, these Red Barons, and they've been, they got off to not a great start actually. So I've kind of mollycoddled them through, and it wasn't until I took them out into the greenhouse that they started doing really well. Which tells you one thing about carrots, which tells you one thing about onions. Onions love light. They need a lot of light. So when you are going to put them into situ, I would be thinking about putting them in the sunniest space that you've got. If you're going to put them in containers, then it's great because you can move the containers around. That's fine. And onions do grow very well in containers. You just don't, it depends on how big an onion you want. You can whack them in very, very thick and they'll be small bulbs, or you can just put them, you know, about 4 or 5 inches apart and you'll get bigger bulbs. I've got this bed here. It is very hard with clay underneath, but because I do no dig, Mr. N came along yesterday and put compost on top, and this is our compost, so there's a lot of sticks, there's a lot of big pieces in here, but it doesn't really matter. And then I have now started to put these onions out. I would say to put onions into the ground, they kind of need to be, people say pencil thick. I'm not sure about that. They can be a little bit thinner, and I'll get up in a minute and I'll show you what I mean, how thin. What you're looking for is you're looking for a great root system on the plant. And if you've got a really good root system, I've got a weed in there as well. If you've got a really, really good root system, again, I will come and show you the root system I'm talking about, then they are ready to actually plant out. So for no dig, all you do is you make a hole in the ground with your handy dibber, and then you pop the onion into it, and that's that. They need quite a lot of water at the beginning of the season, so water like mad. And don't worry about if you've got onions in cells. And let's have a look at stool. I sowed these on the 21st of January. So they've been sitting in these cells for that period of time, and they've been fine, no problem. You'll know when they need to go out if they're really, really desperate, because the tips of them start to get very, very yellow. And if that happens, it means that they've used all the nutrients in your compost and they need to either be potted on. So you could pot these on into 9 centimetre pots if you just can't get them out into the ground, and then they can stay in there for a good 2 or 3 weeks more. Or you put them in the ground and then just keep watering them. Onions like food as well, they're quite hungry. So again, put down some bloodfish and bone first of all if you want to, if you're not using your own compost, and then you might have to give them a feed during the season with something, even a multi-purpose like a general feed like Osmocote or Miracle Grow. That will do perfect for them. And I will probably give these a little bit of a feed because they have been sitting in these modules for a long time. So don't freak out about onions. Onions can stay in modules. You will know when they're starting to look a little bit not so great. Get them into the ground and then they stay in the ground. These will probably be ready, I would say, end of July, beginning of August. The other thing to remember is allium leaf miner. Okay, I'm going to say that the first succession of allium leaf miner is actually finished for the year, but hey, I can't control flies, can I? I wish I could, but I can't. So these new little seedlings that are going in are going to be covered. The other ones that I've got behind me that has the mesh over them, I'm thinking about taking the cover off. I have taken the cover off my garlic because they're now well established, they should be fine, and I'm thinking I might actually take the cover off those onions as well behind me. But anything new I will cover, just because nice and small, baby veg, yummy, 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 rather than the old kind of leathery leaves on the older ones. So that's why I'm going to cover it. The next succession of allium leaf miner, no, we're not finished for the year, is later on in the year. September, end of August, September, even going into October. So if you have got anything in the ground then, or if you are going to start putting your garlic in the ground, you might have to think about covering again. So that's it. Let me plant my onions and I will see you again. I'm going to harvest some rhubarb today because I want to make a rhubarb crackanon. I think that's what it's called. It's where you have the rhubarb at the bottom all stewed, and then you have some yogurty creamy thing, and then you have like a crunch on top, which is like a granola. And I am using the recipe that Sarah Raven made for us. Well, I'm not sure she made, I don't think she made it, but the people in the kitchen made this recipe for us when we went there and visited a few weeks ago. So, and it was really delicious. So I have got this massive rhubarb patch here in my kind of soft fruit area here in the kitchen garden, and I'm just going to harvest. So when you harvest rhubarb, I hope this is going to work. Oh yes, it should. They are, I mean, the leaves and everything are just massive. And this is how you harvest rhubarb. You don't go, when I first grew rhubarb, because rhubarb's very difficult to grow in Australia, and when I came over here and tasted rhubarb and thought, oh, this is really lovely, and I first started growing it, I used to get a knife and cut the stems off about there. But that was the wrong way, because then what happens is the rest of the stem that's attached to the actual plant rots down into the plant, and it's not very good for it. But look how big the leaves are. See? They are absolutely massive. Well, if you don't know this, don't eat the leaves. The leaves are actually poisonous. Well, I say poisonous. You'd have to eat quite a lot of them to die, but there is something in here called oxalic acid, and that really gives you the, you know what, going to the toilet quite a lot, the runs. So you don't want that, definitely. This is how you get your rhubarb off, like this. And then I'm just going to get my hori knife here, or you can use scissors if you want to. It's completely up to you. And all I'm going to do is go, ta-da! And that leaf then can go on the compost. Don't worry about that, because when it composts down, it's fine. It's not poisonous. I've been doing it for years and I haven't died yet. This, you are not seeing a mirage or a ghost. So I'm going to get I'll pick as much as I can, actually, because when I make this rhubarb kind of compote with ginger and stuff, the rest of the rhubarb then I'm going to use and make a cordial as well. So let's harvest some rhubarb, shall we? There we are. There's the rhubarb. It smells fabulous. It has this kind of really kind of astringenty smell. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's go inside and do something with this. So here are the ingredients for the poached rhubarb. Rhubarb, water, granulated sugar, a peel of an orange, 2 star anise, and a big piece of fresh ginger, peeled and finely sliced. Here it is. And let's have a taste test. Go right in and get, ooh. Oh, wow. That's something. Gorgeous. Really, really yummy, yummy. Oh, I'm having more and I've forgotten that I'm on camera. So, thank you for joining me. I will see you next week. Who knows what the week will bring, but there is lots to do. I am taking things out of the big greenhouse today. The big evacuation begins. I make sure that my watering system is set up properly, and then everything that is inside on the dining room table is coming out. So, I'm Susie B from Susie B Living. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you soon. Give us a thumbs up if you like my videos, and I hope you're all moon phase gardening. Hit that subscribe button. See you later. Bye.